Morning. It's nice to see you all and feel this familiar feeling of meeting again at the oasis. A place of refuge and refreshment. So let's begin by sensing our own condition in our own skin. Some of us from this country experienced quite a surreal day yesterday, but others throughout the world are having their own challenging experiences. So first just sense whatever you can identify or make contact with. That you're carrying right now, bodily sensation. Feelings, emotions. What is the state of your mind? We're just getting a sense of our particular condition. Many of what we're identifying, many of the sensations and feelings and whatever state our mind is in, we share these in common. They don't belong particularly to us personally, and yet we experience them very personally. We have a my that's in the center of this. So this that we carry in our experience right now, this is what we could say is the condition of life. How we're affected, how we feel to be alive. So our motto, kind of our, let's say our aspiration in these Thursday attunements are to practice together, to practice what Mershid calls being in tune with the infinite, and the rhythm of life, or we could say our condition in life, our condition inside this skin, inside these shoes, and then the condition we find ourselves in the context of. And just as there can be delight and beauty and harmony in the condition of life, there can be permeated by fear and anger, agitation. So we're not denying the condition of life. We're not denying in this moment what our condition is and the condition of the world. But we're going, in attunement, we turn toward another aspect of ourself, the infinite. So Zarifa, if you could put on that music for just a few minutes. The Om. It's the sound of the infinite. It is our deep self. Primordial. Unaffected by conditions. Thank you, Zarifa. Now for a moment, perhaps you could just try out that this Om, the sound of the infinite, is in your heart. Is looking out through your eyes. Is who is seeing. Is who is hearing. The infinite is not far away. It is this consciousness that is perceiving. We move our separate self, our conditioned self, we could say our sleeping self, the sleeping self that is part of the instinctual world, just happening, just running, just being instinctually, like trees and stones, not aware that there is a one within us that is awake. We keep slumbering, we are slumbering. So as we make a movement, as we stir, Rumi says, I slept in the mineral, in the vegetable, and I stirred in the animal. And I started waking, coming to consciousness in the human. We come closer, our sleeping self comes closer to awakening to our deep self. First, through silence. The outer edge, let's say the outer surface of silence is lack of sound. A more, let's say, a deeper level of silence we find in ourselves when our thinking winds down. So let's attune together to this, the inner silence that is more than not having any noise around. So first, let's turn toward the within. within is not inside or outside, or out there or in here. The within has no location. It's inside and outside. Not confined to physical coordinates. Within, the place of knowing. And here also in this, in our attunements, we're also keeping a sense out, an inner sense that we are sharing this movement toward the within together. It's different than sitting in our room or on retreat alone. This is together. We are opening to the within. And we have to let our thoughts go and kind of where we've been looking and listening and relating from. This is kind of have to drop that in a way and enter into this space, which is truly infinite, the within. So part of our practice together is sensing this within that is nowhere. It is nowhere. If it is anywhere, it is everywhere. And there's a sense of somehow there's a togetherness as we sense this. So first entry is listening to the silence that is the absence of sound. That's a point of entry. Listening to the silence that is the absence of sound right now. It's a turning up the volume on silence. And then next, what we're paying attention to as we have this shared silence is to notice how our thoughts and feelings flit through this silent shared space. So this helps us make contact with ourself that is not embedded in our thoughts and feelings. Because from this silent land, our deep self, eyes, and heart. Notice this. So let us go together now off the deep end into deep space. For just a few minutes, we can leave the whole world behind at the surface. It will be waiting. So as in Star Trek, let us enter deeper. And though it seems like we may be moving toward and into deeper space, we might discover that the deepest space, the infinite, is right here when we let our thoughts drop off. Don't give them any attention. Not only thoughts, we can let them drop out, but sometimes fear or of going so deeply. So letting the world, which isn't really a world, it's the world we hold in our mind. Yes, there's a objective, probably an objective world, and there's creation. Yet, for the most part, the world is something we hold in our mind. So we're letting that slough off as we go deeper and deeper and deeper. This is the finding our deep self, our infinite self. Is the fulfillment of self-knowledge. Okay, so we're gonna from this perspective, gradually just let say the thoughts and the feelings of comprise your life and what you will be needing as this time is over, and say the rest of your day. Is there a way to hold a whiff of this usually hidden dimension of ourself? Maybe if we're talking to somebody, we don't have to be continually thinking how we're going to respond or what they're saying or what we think about it. But there's a gap. Looking in another person's eyes, that black pupil. So in ending, I'd like to read a passage by Murshid, which I think makes a beautiful bridge between the contact with our source, our depth, and our life in the world. And what that good can come out of this contact with our depth. It gives us a chance to no longer act and respond from our conditioned self. We've read this before, but it seems quite appropriate. Often people come to hear me and afterwards say, yes, all you say is very interesting, very beautiful. And I wish too that the world could be changed. But how many think like you? How can you do it? How can it be done? They come with these pessimistic remarks, and I tell them, one person comes into a country with a little cold or influenza, and it spreads. If such a bad thing can spread, could not then the elevated thought of love and kindness and goodwill towards all also spread? Thus, we should see to it that there are finer germs of goodwill. They also spread. These finer germs go from one to another of love, of kindness, of the feeling of kinship, of the desire for spiritual evolution. They will have greater results than the other ones. They will have greater results than the other ones. What if we believed that? If we all took this optimistic view, if we all worked in our small way, we could accomplish a great deal. This does not mean that we should not be active in the world, improve conditions where we can, but not to forget this. I was actually reading an article in the New York Times that was telling about this research that the upshot was if you, your family, your household is in a positive, happy, positive state, your neighbors are 35% more likely to be happy, and two neighbors down, two houses, like 15%. I love it when all these things that Murshid has said like 100 years ago, that sound so kind of poetic in a way, the germs of kindness and the germs of love. You can actually measure them. So thank you for joining today. I wish you a beautiful rest of the day. Peace and blessings.